You're listening to 15 Minutes, where we feature community leaders sharing what the rest of us should know but likely don't. Hi, Chad Franzen here, one of the hosts of Share Your Voice, where we talk with top-notch law firms and lawyers about what it takes to grow a successful law practice. This episode is brought to you by Gladiator Law Marketing, delivering tailor-made services to help you accomplish your objectives and maximize your growth potential. To have a successful marketing campaign and make sure you're getting the best ROI, your firm needs to have a better website and better content. Gladiator Law Marketing uses artificial intelligence, machine learning, and decades of experience to outperform the competition. To learn more, go to gladiatorlawmarketing.com, where you can schedule a free marketing consultation. Paula Brillson is an international business executive and attorney. She founded Digital Law Group in 2013 to provide businesses critical legal services for innovators, which from idea to commercialization, focusing on technology, consumer products, and media sectors. She has helped hundreds of entrepreneurs develop and implement strategies for building and enforcing intellectual property portfolios. Paula, thanks for joining me today. How are you?
Thanks, Chad. Great to be here.
Hey, you have a pretty diverse background, shall we say. Tell me how and when you knew you wanted to be an attorney.
I wanted to be an attorney from the time I was third grade. I think that was a response to a bully. But yeah, just the idea that I could understand if you will, the rules and regulations in the world that we operate, because in so many ways we're powerless. And ignorance of the law is not an excuse. And so from a young age, I was very confrontational in terms of wanting to understand my rights and asserting my rights. I had basically more brawn than brains at that time, and so it was just a natural progression that I would end up going to law school.
So let me ask you this: is what drew you? I mean, obviously, in third grade, you're going to think a lot, differently than you do as an adult. But is what drew you to being an attorney still what you enjoy most about being an attorney?
Yes, absolutely. Because one of the things that I've always kind of is really been my platform is helping the little guy, helping the underdog. Because as a young person, let's just say I had personal family situation that was beyond my control and didn't understand what was happening. As a result, I ended up in like a foster care type of program. And I think at that time, it really made me want to, when I understood my rights, I understand, for example, from doing research, and this was pre-internet, that I could emancipate myself as a minor at 16. I took my GED and ended up going to college. And all of those things would not have been possible if I didn't understand that these channels were available. And so as I continued on, I realized that a lot of people don't have that resourcefulness, if you will, or even just the I'd say the fortitude and the confidence to stand up for their rights. And I think it was just a natural progression from the first company I worked with, which was a small baby bell company who was competing in the local access telecoms industry for the first time and trying to get equal rights with the baby bells, and then on to MCI when we were trying to get equal rights with AT&T. So, sometimes I feel like our path chooses us, and it has always been the case that my path has been kind of defending the underdog and then parlaying that into working with startup companies, which obviously, as you know, has really exploded in the last 10, 20 years.
Sure.
But more so now, and particularly after the pandemic.
So what, as I mentioned, you have a lot of international experience. I was hoping to ask you about some of that. I know you moved to Hong Kong at one time. When and why did you decide to do that?
Right. So one of the exciting things I found when I got to law school, I was very interested in paradigm shifts. What was coming next? To understand the business environments meant that we could better protect ourselves. We could plan as to what was coming next. And when I saw what was coming next was the telecom and the data boom, and my law school colleagues said, this is so strange that you want to focus on telecoms and and be a lawyer. And but it was almost like I had had a crystal ball. So I went to a study abroad program in Madrid that offered an international mass media course. And it was just so exciting to me, the idea that you have um, entertainment, business, technology, innovation, all converging in that area. And so basically, I spent a number of years working for this local company who was competing with the baby bells at the time that there was deregulation, and then as deregulation started to happen globally, I zoned in on an area in Hong Kong where they were really open to deregulation. And I was able to work out of the MCI Hong Kong office to assist our company to be able to take advantage of the new deregulation and guide the regulator. And in that way, I would say every great position that I've had, I created myself because I saw a need. I put together a proposal and I presented it to whoever I'm working for at the time. And now I do the same for my clients. I don't just wait for a client to come to me and say, this is what I need. I look at what's going on in the environment and I advise them as to what they should be looking at and if you will, the prophylactic measures they should be taking in order to, stay ahead of governmental changes in the economy and the use of technology.
So if you've worked for other companies and you created the position for yourself, what has been maybe a key to convincing these businesses or these companies to create this role that you have found? Like, do you just have to really illustrate the problem and how you'll solve it?
Right. Well, first of all, I there's a matter of gaining trust. You get hired to do a position, you do your position. You do it well and you do it for a period of time. What I noticed about today's entrepreneurs is they're working for a company for a year and they feel that they deserve a promotion or a raise, and there's the dissatisfaction that just takes place very quickly. And I'm from I come from the school where you stay in a position for a number of years and you continue to contribute, be a team member, and your team members will look at you and say, yes, this person is ready for that promotion. And so I think there's a balance today because, yes, we do move a little more quickly and people do not stay in their positions for 10, 20 years like they used to. But to be able to develop that trust and have the consistency where a company realizes that you're acting as part of the team and not just the I and what can I get from this, and taking the opportunity as it presents itself where the company might be looking for a change or looking to grow into a new market, and then I take the opportunity to run with that by, let's just say, putting together a PowerPoint presentation. And quite frequently, I'm doing that as I spoke with my colleagues. And again, it's not the me show in this organization. And that's what I find, is also another challenge that a number of entrepreneurs face. People feel so isolated today. They're working from their home offices or mostly contacting via, like we are right now, not in person. But being in a vacuum, being in a silo is not how little companies become big companies, and it's really that important aspect that I stress today with my clients is like everyone focuses on what their core strengths are and and outsource the rest to others and then kind of get out of their way. And so it's from that premise that I kind of focus as to what my area of expertise is. And I expound upon that. So an example is I have a client whose products are regularly being infringed on Amazon, Walmart, and we're doing takedowns. So they're getting into the country through through U.S. Customs. So I created a proposal for them to show that we can educate Customs and Border Control by creating presentations and agreeing to have, setting up demonstrations at the key ports to educate the officers on how to detect this is a real product, this is an infringing product. Well, in the last 6 months, I have not done any takedown infringement work for them. And so then they get me involved in another area and so on and so forth. So, in terms of seeing the bigger picture, I think, getting back to your point of my diverse background, from telecoms, and when I moved to Hong Kong, I saw an opportunity to buy and sell bandwidth like any other commodity. Because here you have companies going, I need a half circuit between here and Japan, because that's how international circuits are sold. We've got if we want to have a circuit to get communications to a hub in Japan, we need to have an agreement with our counterparty in Japan. So I go to trade shows and it's like, I'm looking for a route at this price. And it was like, it reminded me of what it must have been like when, farmers were trying to trade corn or grain. So we created this commodities exchange where it was basically bandwidth on demand. And there was it was like a currency exchange where you could see the prices of the routes and you could choose it. And if you were connected to our network, you would be able to seamlessly have a 45 megabit connection or whatever it is that you required. But if you recall, I think early 2001, when the internet tanked, along with that, so did my clients. And so we ended up, all of us, closing our shop during that time. Companies, your clients can't pay your bills, you can't pay your bills. But what an incredible learning experience. And I had now, not only being a lawyer, having the background in telecoms, but now I've had the experience of what it is to be a CEO, to report to a board, to have employees, and all of the agreements and all of the issues and all of the compliance. And it was, again, our paths, I feel, choose us, because afterwards I was approached by a company in the Philippines. They told me they had been received a cease and desist letter for a trademark infringement. It was not something that I had handled before, but I did my research, and using kind of my business savvy that I had developed, I saw, like, how could we turn this kind of contentious situation into a collaborative environment. And what I learned was that the two parties working together could actually curtail infringement that was happening. And we agreed to work together for 18 months. Well, the company was so pleased with how I had settled that they gave me an offer to come to work for them in the Philippines. Now I'm in an IP house where the leadership team are inventing products, patenting them, trademark, and distributing them to 60 countries. And so that was the next area that I had to get up to speed. Just having a legal background, I feel you get the education on how to research. And if somebody comes to me with something that I can't handle, most likely if I can't figure out a solution by looking at doing research, looking at how similar legal issues have been resolved in the past, then I usually have a network of other attorneys that I can refer them to.
So you have done a lot of things that most people don't either have the guts to do or don't think to do. Like you mentioned you took the GED at 16 and graduated and went to college. At that time, most people just go through the process of finishing high school. You moved to Asia. You started your own business in Asia. Have you always been kind of like willing to put yourself out there like that?
Oh, 100%. I'm a firm believer that the only time that I'm growing is when I'm uncomfortable. And I put myself in positions to be uncomfortable just because of that, because I have seen time and time again that when I do that, there is a reward, there is growth, and there are new opportunities that come along with that. And so I think that it is um, scary for some people to do something new. And a lot of, but yet you have all of these entrepreneurs starting new businesses. That's scary. Are you going to have a falling out with your founders? Like how do you get from point A to point B? And that is why I think, because of everything that I've gone through, that I'm like uniquely positioned to help entrepreneurs, not just because I'm a former CEO of
Mhm.
a startup company, but I have the legal background to support that.
Absolutely. So, as you mentioned, you were in the Philippines. I believe you went there in '04. What brought you back to the U.S. and when was that?
Well, so because I was in Asia for about 10 years and I came back in about 2006. I think, my world felt a little small. When I mastered something, I'm ready for my next challenge, if you will. And I spoke to the company and I said, how would you feel if I lived in the US and we worked via Zoom? So it was, at the time, it wasn't Zoom, it was Skype. And then I would make myself available. So basically, during the day, I was raising children, went to school, did the kid thing. They went to bed, and I would log into Skype and work with my clients until like the wee hours. And so I would say yes, I was the first like remote law firm, if you will, back in 2006. But what I saw, and that everything that I had honed from working with them and my past experience, that I could, go out and cultivate new clients and have more clients just like them. And so I started to go to trade shows. I started to submit myself to speak at the various trade shows. Like, what was I going to speak on? I had this whole like, I was just very diversified. Like, what was it that I was going to focus on? And really, what it came down to was, what am I most passionate about? Right? I mean, don't you find, like, if I had to spend my whole day drafting contracts, that would be like, I don't know, eating saltine crackers all day.
Sure.
So, so what I was really passionate about was guiding companies from an early stage and then guiding them in a later stage where they had to make decisions like acquisitions or mergers, some kind of exit, some kind of so basically when there was that time of change, when there was going to be a shift, those are the areas that I always felt most comfortable assisting my clients.
So, how did that kind of work out for you? You decided you were going to speak at trade shows. You figured out, get some topics that you were passionate about that would be good topics to speak about. Has that developed into something more for you?
Yes, in fact, I went to a trade show, the Electronic Retailing Association, which was basically product marketers coming together with a whole ecosystem, distributors, fulfillment houses, etc. And I just went in, and I think I finagled myself an invitation to like the hottest ticket. I was like on an exhibit pass. I finagled myself into this kind of cocktail party hosted by a very large distributor. And while I was there, I met a gentleman who said that his daughter was in law school, and would I had just graduated law school, and it would, instead of her going to a large law firm where she didn't get to touch really any meaty or meaningful legal matters, that would I be willing to take her on? And long story short, I met with her, Jessica Sutherland. We were partners for 8 years. We
Wow.
formed Digital Law Group together. And again, path is choosing me. I get out there, I am open to the new opportunity. and I don't really have any commitment to what that outcome is going to be. Here I was looking for clients at this trade show, and I ended up meeting a partner that really helped me grow, brand the practice. She was largely responsible. She came up with the name Digital Law Group. And, here we are now, 10 years later, and it isn't at all about being digital. And I want to talk a little more about that when you're ready for me to
Sure.
engage, particularly on AI.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask you about that. So if you could just tell me a little bit more, you kind of got into it about how Digital Law Group came about. I believe that was in 2013. So you'd already had quite a bit of experience uh, at that point. How did it come about? And then what do you guys do?
Right. So I continue to serve my company, Creative Nations International, out of the Philippines, but I started to, I guess, pretty much through word of mouth, began to have clients come to me for contracts, for trademarks, particularly then monitoring intellectual property that was being infringed, and talk about a Davy and Goliath situation, helping inventors to protect themselves and um, basically enforce their intellectual property rights against large companies with unlimited budgets. And that really became, you know, uh, uh, just just kind of a personal mission, occupying all my free time, to try to help those inventors. And pretty much what I thought is the best approach was try to help them before they were taken advantage of. Make sure that they launch with the most, the strongest protections. Don't go to a trade show unless you have your patent issued. Don't put your trademark out there if you haven't filed it, and et cetera. I wrote a book actually, on protecting intellectual property rights called "As Stolen on TV."
Oh, really?
And through that book, I got a number of clients coming to me. So for assistance. But my educational aspect of what I do is to try to get those inventors before they have maybe spent money with a inventor help company. But there's a lot of companies out there trying to scam, small entrepreneurs. And if I can get the message out there early enough, before they, uh, misstep, then that is just always an amazing success.
What so what do you guys do with AI? What did you want to get into about that?
Well, what I want to get into about that is, so we're looking specifically about, just this new technology that I think people are dabbling in right now, but somehow, in some ways, they're very happy with the outcomes. So they feel like maybe they're saving money or saving time. Somebody could write a blog for you, or help design your website. I'm talking specifically to startups in the areas that are germane to contracts, corporate setup, intellectual property. And what they do now when they have a legal issue is they ask chatbot. I have this cup a client gave to me, which is, please do not confuse your Google search with my law degree. And it's the same thing with AI. So I had a client recently email me an issue and then include a 2-page response that ChatGPT generated, which basically made the situation so complicated. It dealt with a post-employment request for an employee to, independent contractor to sign an NDA. And that NDA basically said that the company would own any of their intellectual property. So when they put the query to ChatGPT, ChatGPT came back with, well, license it back to the company. It just went on. And my response was, don't sign the NDA. That's a separate bargaining point. If you know you came to work for this company under a specific set of conditions, you would produce this, and they would pay you this. Now they're asking for something entirely different, which is something else that you could bargain for. But for the most part, you don't have to sign it. And that just gave him so much relief. And that's exactly what happened. And the company changed the NDA, so it did not include any of those provisions. So I don't think that's the kind of advice you're going to get from an AI generated platform. And while a number of attorneys are concerned that AI will take over their practice, I say use AI efficiently, and but also double check that with an attorney who's a walking, talking, pulse generating entity.
Sure. So I have one more question for you, but first tell me how people can find out more about Digital Law Group and maybe a reason why they should rather than going somewhere else.
Sure. And I appreciate you asking that because, whether it's a corporate setup or a contract, there are so many platforms that are willing to, let's just say a LegalZoom, for example. But not every company and not every situation fits into a cookie cutter. And I see less and less today's companies fitting into a cookie cutter. And so those kind of shortcuts, you might save money in the short term, but you're going to spend more money in a long term when things are not aligned with the company's objectives. My website is digitallawgroup.com. And in working with entrepreneurs, I realize that a lot of times they're pre-seed, their budgets are limited, and I'm willing to be flexible with them in terms of structuring, whether it's fixed rate packages or other pay over time arrangements. And I work with them kind of on a collaborative level. I'm not the kind of attorney, as I said in the beginning, where someone's going to come to me and say, I need this, 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 and I just do that. I educate them, and I really appreciate the opportunity. For example, I'm working with a new company who is replacing single-use containers. It's called Reusable Logistics. And they said, we'd like you to set up a C Corp for us. And I said, well, did you consider a public benefit company, which basically can balance the desired goals of the company to benefit the public, i.e., environmentally, and balance the need of, for you to satisfy the shareholders. And that was something that they hadn't considered. So that's something that you're getting with me. You're kind of also getting someone who responds extremely quickly and efficiently. And I have a great team of advisors that they can work with, whether it's they're developing a new product, they want some input. Do we think, is that a good idea? Is that something that's been done? What are the price points that I need to hit in order for this to be a marketable product? And so that's pretty much what you're getting. You're not getting your traditional law firm, and you're getting advisors, trusted advisors.
Last question for you. I appreciate your time today, Paula. You clearly have a lot of experience in negotiating. I'm sure you could write a book about negotiation. Can you give me like a Cliff Notes version of how you kind of your approach to difficult negotiations or disputes?
Difficult negotiations or disputes, of course, no one likes them. I mean, even for me, I like to be, can't we all just get along? I find that when an event happens, that is when emotions are high. And I try to create the pause. I find that the pause is extremely important to allow the emotions to settle so that people can be reasonable. When I get on a phone with another attorney or someone who's cutting me off, I will end the call. Very simple. If you're not listening to me, my voice isn't going to go higher than yours in order to make you listen. Maybe it'll be a better time for us to come back. And with that approach, I find that they say, level heads will prevail, something like that. And so I found that to be very successful and kind of understanding at the end of the day, you're dealing with people and who have a history that I'm not aware of. And I think at the end of the day, people want to have their needs met. And to me, a win-win is not my client got everything and the other got nothing, but where they walk away where there's good feelings. Because you never know, maybe in the future there is an opportunity to work with that other company or person, and it's always a win-win when we can leave that door open, because you never know, your client today could be your boss tomorrow, right?
Absolutely. Hey, Paula, it's been great to talk to you. Thanks so much for taking the time and sharing your stories and all of your insights and perspectives. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Great questions. Appreciate your time today, Chad.
Thank you. So long, everybody. Thanks for listening to 15 Minutes. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.